Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show, the best YouTube show on YouTube. I said it again. It's been a while, but we're back.
The best on
Ever.
YouTube.
On YouTube.
We can only go up from here.
There's nowhere else to go. Soon we're going to be the best media ever. Any sort. Moby Dick, none of it. War and Peace, War and Sleep, none of that.
Those are books.
Those are books, and that is a type
I've
of
never
media,
read.
and we are better than them.
Better. What about like Shawshank or anything like that?
Oh no, Shawshank will always be like the best thing ever made.
Okay.
But
All right.
I apologize. We're the second best piece. We will be the second best piece of media. We're still working our way up there, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Not too far. Russ Fisher, Dynasty at House, Addison Hayes, Adam Mays Hayes _ here in the non-point scoring season to use DLF and all of its awesome tools. Well, some of its awesome tools. They got a lot more tools than we need on this show. Last week we did running backs. Now we're going to do wide receivers. And last week when Addison's like, who should we talk about? We listed like 4 or 5 players, which weren't supposed to all be running backs. They just kind of all were. And then they were like, okay, let's do wide receivers next week. So today Addison messages me and he's like, all right, so who are we talking about? And I accidentally listed like 12 wide receivers. And I'm like, I just like wide receivers.
Who doesn't, dude?
Exactly, right? And the first name that came to my mind through my fingertips and onto the keyboard, which went into Slack, which went onto Addison's Slack, was Calvin Ridley. Because let's face it, I love me some Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is out of a lot of people's minds. They might be a little worried that maybe he doesn't want to come back. They might be a little worried that he's taken time off. They might be a little blah, 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 blah. Let's put it this way. If you had any faith in Michael Thomas coming back and doing well before this season, you should be hyped as heck for Calvin Ridley. Because we were still worried about Michael Thomas's injuries. Calvin Ridley was not injured. He's healthy, ready to go. So I am all in, and I can just wax poetic about Calvin Ridley forever, and it's probably been like 6 to 12 minutes already. So let's just get to the trades. All right, the first trade we have is 12-team Superflex, where someone traded Zeke Elliott and 2 23 thirds for Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley comes in at 98.3. Caution, TP is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the deal because Zeke is up at 117.3, the thirds at 56.3 for a total of 230. More or less. So heavily favored the Zeke side. Now, what I love about aging running backs and why, honestly, I'm going to have a lot of Zeke on my teams, he can still be good. Like, he's not going to be RB5 Zeke, but he could be RB13 Zeke, and you're not going to be sad about it.
Nah.
Like, you don't have clearly you don't have to pay much for him, but sitting back, Calvin Ridley is 28, so this isn't like a rebuilding move to say, but in the next 5 months, who has the more likely chance that their value is going to go up between Zeke and Calvin Ridley?
Ridley.
Exactly. So this is a move I'm completely cool making. I'd rather not add the thirds because that does, but like if we can do this 1-for-1, I would easily send away Zeke to go get Calvin Ridley. First of all, it just makes me happy to have Ridley on my team, but also because I don't think anyone is going to pay a good price for Zeke right now. Even the people that are lower on Zeke, what they consider a good price. It's going to be tough to get a good price, that I keep saying that phrase way too much, for a 27-year-old running back in January. It's rough. So going and getting Ridley, the second that dude gets a picture of him in a Jaguars uniform, his value is going to go up.
Yeah, I'm team Ridley on this one too. Just because, I mean, for everything like you said, like Ridley is the only asset in this deal that can gain value and potentially gain significant value as well too. Zeke will probably never, ever again see a value increase. People are already projecting that he's just gonna like retire at the end, and
now.
Yeah, basically, which I mean, he'll still be fine, but like I have some Zeke fatigue as well. And boy, I'm just ready to like be done with that and move on. So I'll take Calvin Ridley here. I actually highlighted Ridley as a player that I wanted to go out and get for 2023 now. And I feel like what they do remember about Calvin Ridley is the last time that he played, he wasn't great, with the Falcons for like those 6 or 7 games before he decided to step away. Kyle Pitts' rookie year, all that kind of stuff. He was wide receiver 25 in points per game in those 6 games that he played, which I get isn't great.
Was admittedly didn't have his head in the game.
No. And also was playing with I don't know how old he was, 37, 38 years old, Matt Ryan on the Atlanta Falcons. So now he gets Trevor Lawrence, who is almost 2 decades younger than Matt Ryan. Way better of a prospect of a quarterback right now, and way better than Matt Ryan probably ever was in his career, or at least that's the upside that Trevor Lawrence is heading towards.
Yep.
There's just so much better of a situation for Calvin Ridley in this Jacksonville Jaguars offense that even if he is just wide receiver 25, that in and of itself is a huge value increase on top, from where he is being valued at right now. He's in the 40s, I think, in DLF ADP as a wide receiver 4. So that in and of itself is just baseline production value increase, let alone maybe he's not where he was the year before when he was putting up 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns or whatever. But if he's a back end wide receiver 1, if he's Chris Godwin, if he's Mike Evans, one of those kind of play, Amari Cooper, that's going to tremendously increase his value.
What's really funny is I pulled up December ADP because January, the mocks are still going on. And you were talking about him being, wide receiver 25, and wide receiver 25 is Jameson Williams. That's opposite ends of spectrums, but wide receiver 26 is Amari Cooper. So I said, what if you sent Zeke and got last year's Amari Cooper? I think you'd be happy with that.
You'd be ecstatic about that.
The next one, I can see the little back and forth about it. It is straight up Calvin Ridley for Sky Moore. Now, 98 for Ridley, 74 for Sky Moore. What are your feelings on Sky Moore and this trade in general?
I wish Sky Moore did something.
I wish Sky Moore just didn't go to Kansas City. I hated the second they drafted him.
Man, see, looking back on where that was, that was a really good landing spot for him back when he was drafted.
Well, if they didn't have Juju there, I would have felt a lot better about it. But
he couldn't even beat out MVS or Hardman, or I don't know if that's an Andy Reid thing, or if it's the rookie has to work his way up,
Yeah. Well, see, to me, Sky Moore reminds me more of Juju's play style than MVS that you just want to run in a straight line. Yeah. So that's why I hate, to me, that they were kind of similar, that I hated that they landed in the same spot, because either they were both going to be on the field all the time and just vulture each other, or one of them wasn't going to make it on the field. And Sky Moore just never made it on the field.
Yep. So I don't want to say I'm done with Sky Moore. I am out.
Juju can be gone.
Yeah, that's true. But I think Juju might come back. But I'm out on Sky Moore at his current price. He's still priced very high. People think that he should be coming back, and I just don't necessarily agree with that, to where I will take Calvin Ridley and just the upside shot that, he does gain a bunch of value. He produces well for me. At least right now, it just seems like Calvin Ridley could just be, if you can acquire at this price, you can sell for twice that in the summer. You don't even got to see what he does. And you can just, it's just a really quick, lottery ticket asset that is just going to hit, and you can sell for more later.
Rookie receivers having the kind of year Sky Moore did has history stacked against them. Yeah. Let's just put it that way. And Calvin Ridley, who is very, very good, and we've seen players take a year off and come back and be even just okay. Again, I am not for the life of me claiming that he's going to walk on the field and be 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns. He's not, most likely not. That's not going to happen. I would love if it did. I will love if it did, but still, especially again at this price. And I like Sky Moore. I do think there's a chance that he still can be good-ish, but like you said, the safe and easy bet in this trade is on Calvin Ridley. if you can get Sky Moore in here for 73.5 points, if you could send a late second, 2/3 to go get Sky Moore, I would probably do it. Maybe not late second. I'll have to see what's on the board at the time. But, because at that point, you're evening out kind of what the value is. So you might as well take the young guy who didn't have a bad rookie year already.
Right, just re-roll the dice completely.
Yeah, but in general, Calvin Ridley, easily.
Calvin Ridley.
This next one, I have... Did you notice that first trade?
I did. Yep.
Did you?
Yep.
Okay, so I have been talking about Devonta Smith a lot for the past few weeks, and this first trade, you'll see why. Devonta Smith finished as the wide receiver 14 in points per game this season, and let's not forget week 1, he had 0. Like, he bageled the first week, straight up goose egged, straight up. Those are the only two things I can think of. What other way to say
donut?
Donut, yeah. Other circle things, like. So, like, that pretty much scrapes away 1 or 2 points per game. That really weird, just what? Why? So, we're talking pretty much top 12 at this point. Is wide receiver 14 repeatable every single season? Man, if the Eagles offense keeps playing this, why the heck not? So, I really think Devonta Smith is a nice go after because you don't have to pay wide receiver 14 prices. And the little story behind this one, this first trade is mine. And I tried to buy some points before heading into the playoffs, and one of those players I bought was Devonta Adams, who clearly was part of the reason I got kicked out of the first round of the playoffs. But after I got kicked out, I ended up pulling off this trade, and the trade was I sent Devonta Adams and a third for Devonta Smith and a second. Now, points-wise, in the analyzer, Devonta Smith, 328, the second is 75 for a total of 403. Devonta Adams, 490, and a third is 56 for a total of 546. So, according to the analyzer, I overpaid a little bit, but I got 6 years younger at wide receiver, and though it's a year away, I stepped up around. I was thrilled that this got accepted. Like, thrilled. And, like, I guess that's my analysis. Yay!
It was
before the whole Carr getting benched and Devonta Adams saying I'm here for Carr and all. Like, it was before all of that.
Yeah. And I love this trade. I think I would have preferred a 23 second.
Me
but
too.
If
you didn't have one.
Was this from Bosch?
Mm-hmm.
And he was still competing. That's why he bought Devonta Adams, right? I'm assuming. So that 23 second would have been
the
late.
more obnoxious story is I bought Adams off of Bosch and then sold him back to him afterwards. Not for the same thing, because that's collusion. But, this is what it ended up being on the way back.
But I really, really like this trade. I mean, there's so much going on with Devonta Adams right now with, Derek Carr is more than likely gone. I don't even think that's like he's probably gone. It's like he is almost like in depth, like definitely gone.
We just need to get that like wink and nod from the coaching staff.
I mean, he did well with Jarrett Stidham, but Stidham, I don't even know. Like, we've seen times where like backup QBs, they come in and they look really good at the beginning, and then you start seeing tape on them, and then defenses can figure out what to do. And there's a reason why they were backup quarterbacks drafted on day 3. Yeah,
last year, Mike White. I mean, Mike White didn't stay healthy long enough for it to happen this year, but last year exactly happened. Came out through like 4 touchdowns, then 2 games later through 4 interceptions. Yeah,
it's just you see it all the time where there's a reason why these guys are backups. And I'm not saying that Devonta Adams is going to be bad. He just, Devonta Adams is an elite tier top 3 to top 1 wide receiver in the league. But there is also the fact that, like you said, like Adams is 30 years old, so you're dropping 6 years in age down to Devonta Smith, which is great. Smith is in a high-powered offense, and yes, he is the wide receiver too, but that offense is so funneled through 2 or 3 players. It's like Miami Dolphins, Tyreek and Waddle were both eating because they were soaking up over 50% of the target share, and that was able to support both of them. Devonta Smith and AJ Brown can do the exact same thing. There's room to grow too. The Eagles only threw it 530 times this year, and so they could. What if they throw it a little bit more? Or And there's a whole lot of different ways that you can look at this as a pro Devonta Smith trade, that I am taking Devonta Smith. And it is really crazy. Like when you look at his stats, I don't even know if I even realized that his final stat line was 95 for 1,207
Oh my. Yeah, that's
on 135 targets. Yeah.
I'll take it. I took it. The next one. Interesting. Devonta Smith straight up for DeAndre Swift. You're right. That sucks.
Those are names. Those are two names.
Those are names. Okay, so here's the thing. Devonta Smith coming in at 327.7. DeAndre Swift coming in at 426.1. Is DeAndre Swift a good fantasy football asset?
Yes. And I will defend that to my last days.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have something over your shoulder right now. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay, so I'll go first because I'm going to be mixed and, you know, you'll get to defend Swift. I'm not saying he's not talented at all. His health has always worried me because he always finds ways to get nicked up, and that team doesn't want to seem to use him the way he should be used. And it's tough. It's tough to get behind him. I always thought he was overvalued coming into this season, where he made his way up to like running back 3. And while I always believed that if used correctly and stayed healthy, Swift has the ceiling of the running back 1 in his range of outcomes. Like, imagine the Lions offense doing as well as it did, but he was getting almost Christian McCaffrey usage, which again is within the realm of possibilities. It's just that Jamal Williams is doing so well scoring touchdowns, so there's no reason not to keep giving him the ball, even though he goes like 6 for 36, but scores 3 touchdowns. I am me. I probably let my bias take me here and take Devonta Smith, realizing that I probably lost the trade value-wise. Are you freaking out so much that your camera's like?
Yeah, my camera just really, yeah.
Like your camera just disagrees with me. Like this is a sizable difference. 100 points is nothing to sneeze at in the analyzer, and I think I give it up. We're talking an ADP difference of 20 picks. It's a lot. I think I'm taking the wrong answer here and taking Devonta Smith.
I don't think that's the wrong answer. I think this is like, if you put this trade out there on Twitter, you'd probably see at least 60-40 Devonta Smith. But I feel like some of that kind of comes in.
Well, there's going to be a lot of Swift hatred more than picking Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith had a massive end of the season as well, too. Like, that is still fresh in people's minds. From weeks 1 through 12, Devonta Smith was the wide receiver 24, averaging a little over 12 points per game. But then from weeks 13 through 17, he was really popping off, and that was even including 2 games with Gardner Minshew as well. He was the wide receiver 3, averaging 21.5. So that kind of shows you how good of an end of season Devonta Smith had. Now, granted, AJ Brown was the wide receiver 2, averaging 22.5. So they both had a really good end of the season. I feel like in some ways you could kind of say that DeAndre Swift right now is the running back version of Devonta Smith, where they both, because Devonta Smith is the wide receiver 2, he'll never be the go-to option for Jalen Hurts, right? Like, he's always going to have to rely on the fact that game script kind of goes his way. They play a good defense that can single out AJ Brown out of the game plan. You know, Sauce Gardner locks him down. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of stuff. And Devonta Smith just eating because he's open all the time on the team's cornerback too. DeAndre Swift also has the ability to get taken out of the equation, but he also has the ability to put up 20 plus points like he just did against the Chicago Bears in week 17. In championship week, he scored twice. I think he had 100 total yards. He's catching 4, 5, 6 passes a game in those types of games. Like, they both have the ability to be neutralized for fantasy. They both have the ability to just pop off, you know? So yeah, I can see both sides of this for sure. And that's why I think it's a really good trade. It's just kind of like, do you want to build your team around the young wide receiver or the young running back who has that ceiling and upside of being a top 5 fantasy running back?
See, here's my issue. The last couple of games for DeAndre Swift, week 13, he put up 21 points, and it's just like, oh yeah, remember, he is good. Look
He's
at this
back.
stuff. 21, 6.9, 12.5, 3.5, 27.7. My issue is Devonta Smith finished as wide receiver 14. We just said, hold on, I'm in a January mock. Let me pull up the 1QB because that's probably further along, and I'm assuming he would have gotten drafted by now. Wide receiver 13 at the 207.
Wow.
DeAndre Swift, running back 3 at the 201.
Running back 3 compared to wide receiver 13, and they're almost being drafted next to each other. That's
running back is not a great situation right now, and
no, it's not.
The fact that Kenneth Walker actually fell to the 203 is a little ridiculous in this one. But yeah, they're drafted a little too closer to each other than I thought they would be. Given equal price, which it seems like maybe they are, you're probably right. Having a running back who could finish top 5 as opposed to a wide receiver who can finish top 10, it's probably the right, again, like I said, that's probably the right answer. The right answer is probably DeAndre Swift, because this is what his price should be. His price used to be RB3, but at like the 104. Like, it used to be ridiculous, and it should not that it shouldn't have been, because again, the hype was there, the ability was there, but we just hadn't seen it yet. Now that we see that, chances are that's not the outcome, but it can be.
Yeah.
I think the answer should be Swift over Smith, but I'm still taking Smith because I am biased as heck on wide receivers.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think what you said was necessarily the wrong answer, because I think a lot of people would agree with you that they were just like, just take the young, productive wide receiver who just put up 95 for 1,207 over the hope for the, what is this now, 4th year in a row that DeAndre Swift takes it to the next level and just isn't what he's been for the last 3 years because of injuries, because of the team limits his snap counts and touches, because they don't want him to get hurt, So Devonta Smith might be the right answer here. I think it's close, though.
All right, so we are going to move on to our last wide receiver of the day, and okay, so I like Rashod Bateman as a player. Rashod Bateman has done well when that offense in Baltimore is running well. We have seen how bad that offense looks without him, and sometimes without a healthy running back. Like, I wish I wasn't lazy and could look up the amount of games we got to see healthy Lamar, Bateman, Andrews, and Dobbins, which I don't think we got to see the 4 parts of that offense put together.
I don't think we've ever seen that.
But also, to put it out there should be more than 4 parts to an offense. But that's besides the point. That's what Greg Roman likes to do, apparently. But like Demarcus Robinson was doing really well at times, until they played undrafted rookies as quarterbacks. But I think Rashod Bateman is talented enough. I think we've seen him do well. I think we got a little too excited about it coming into last season, where we're like, okay, he could be like a top 12, top 10 wide receiver. He could be a top 15, top 20 wide receiver. And again, there's zero wrong with that, given the price. And so I guess let's go see what these prices are. 12-team Superflex League. So Javonte Williams and the 208. Caution, Team A is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the prize, because the highest valued asset is the 107, because it is the 107 Rashod Bateman and a 23 4th. You have been on the record as saying any first for Javonte. Does that still stand?
Yeah. Yep. Especially the 107 in a Superflex League.
And then you're taking Bateman over the 208 and then free 4th. Yeah. Okay. So, hold on. Let's go to ADP. Let's go to running backs. Javonte, man, is down at like RB 18. But let's jump up a little bit. What if it were Ramondre Stevenson instead.
Nope, doesn't matter. Because I'd take the 107 over Stevenson too.
Yeah, he's not the right, but he's the RB10 and the RB9 is DeAndre Swift, Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb. Like, there's a tier, and it's a big one. Like,
I think Swift in here would be a conversation.
What about like Josh Jacobs? Like, that feels more similar to me.
Am I wrong in saying I'd rather have the 107 than Josh Jacobs?
Kind of no, but kind of yeah.
I mean, the dude just put up 2,000 yards and like, what was it, like 15 touchdowns or something like that?
Yeah, in week 17. But still, it's
the 107 in Superflex could be a really pivotal pick this year.
Like, it can be. That's RB3, wide receiver 3, QB3. Like, that's.
It could be. I mean, it could potentially, depending in some leagues out there, depending on draft capital for Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, that 107 could be Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
For some leagues out there, because like the top 4, I think, is solidified in some order with Bijan and Gibbs, and then Stroud and Young. Some order of those 4. So then 105 and 106, I feel like right now is JSN and Addison. And then 107 is just like, what the heck happened? Like, I really like Sean Tucker. I really like Josh Downs. You have Richardson and Levis, like I just mentioned. You got Quentin Johnston in there. Some big people, dude, Michael Mayer might be a first-round pick, and we could talk ourselves into him helping to reset the tight end position, doing that whole thing.
No.
That 107
for another show.
The 107 in particular is just a really interesting pick right now.
Yeah.
There's gonna be so much more clarity for that after the NFL draft. But yeah, I don't know. Outside of bumping up into like the Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, that kind of tier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you replace Javonte with any other running back if I'm not taking the 107 side.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, regardless of what their analyzer score says, like you specifically, Bateman or Javonte straight up?
I would take Javonte straight up over Bateman. I have hope for Bateman, but I feel like it's kind of like a fool's hope, where it's like I was out on Bateman all offseason last year because people just took his price and just like gave it some steroids, and he was a top 20 dynasty wide receiver without having ever done anything in an offense that is shown with other young first round wide receivers that they cannot produce a top 20 fantasy wide receiver. That Hollywood Brown, for if you weren't following. Hollywood was never a top 20 wide receiver in Baltimore, but then we expected Rashod Bateman to be in the same exact offense in the same situation. I wasn't following on that one. So I predicted Bateman to fall. He fell, but now I think he's fallen a little too far, but I don't think I'd pay Javonte for him. I think you're overpaying on that.
Let's move on to the next one. That is 12-team 1 quarterback. What are you doing to me? Okay, so the trade is T. Higgins, Rashod Bateman, and the 212 for Saquon Barkley and Hunter Renfrow. T. Higgins, 793.1, baby. Rashod Bateman, 219.2, 212, 126 for a total of 1139. Saquon Barkley, 777. Hunter Renfrow, 66 for a total of 843. So, for sanity and ease sake, I feel like you can cross off Higgins and Barkley.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think every once in a while you'll get the person that said, give me that stud running back. You might need to add a little bit. Fine. Higgins in the second for Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's the case, Bateman for Renfrow?
Yeah.
Like, this is too much respect on Barkley, not enough respect on Higgins, or straight disrespect on Bateman. I'm not sure which of those it is, but it's one of those.
Yeah, the second's on the wrong side.
And it would need to be a stronger second for me.
Well, sure. But basically, like, value-wise, like if you remove 126 and then add it to the other side, that's basically 1,000 almost. Give or take,
almost
like
a
third
point swing. Yeah.
But Yeah, this to me, this is how you go out and acquire Rashod Bateman. I don't think you should go out and acquire Bateman individually, like in a 1-for-1 kind of deal or, something like that. I think he needs to be a part of a bigger package where it just seems like Bateman isn't really being treated as all that valuable,
Yeah.
which is essentially what's I think happened in both of these deals, where it just seems like Bateman is much more of a throw-in just to get the deal done for other assets that these both managers really like, but then you end up getting Rashod Bateman. So yeah. Are you scared at all that Lamar might not be back? Is that a concern for you?
Honestly, no, because I believe in Bateman's talent that he'd still be good. Like, it doesn't need to be Lamar Jackson for Bateman to be good, because Bateman did do. Now, I don't want Tyler Huntley as the starter. Let me just put that out there. If it's not Lamar, I want it to be someone better than Huntley. But Bateman did pretty well with Huntley last year when Lamar got hurt. Not this past season, the season before. So I'm not super worried about it. Clearly, yes, I want Lamar to be back there. But if Lamar's not there, chances are they have to change that offense up, because that is a Lamar offense. In which case, who the heck knows? In which case, I'm just going to put my faith in the talent that I believe is there. So I'm not super worried, especially at like these prices.
They let Lamar go and then they trade for Zach Wilson.
Cry.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That would be my response. Crying.
Sounds good. Makes sense.
All right. Well, that's a way to end a show. Am I right?
Yep. Sorry.
Well, thank you everybody I hope you all survived that last statement coming out of Addison's face. But we are here to end the DLF trade show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes, Adam Hayes, _. I almost said that correctly, but I flubbed right over it. See you next time.